Somewhere past the edge of the solar system, a machine built in 1977 just sent home something nobody was prepared to hear. In this story, NASA finally decodes a strange transmission from Voyager 2, and what comes back is not noise, not static, not a glitch. It is a pattern. This is a fictional tale of first contact with the unknown, told the way it might unfold if the impossible actually happened. So let's get right into it. Picture the scene inside NASA's jet. Propulsion laboratory, late on an ordinary Tuesday. Engineers are running a routine calibration check on incoming data from Voyager 2, the same kind of check they have run 1,000 times before. The spacecraft is over 12 billion miles away, drifting through interstellar space, still faithfully reporting plasma density and magnetic field readings the way it has for decades. Except tonight, buried inside the usual stream of numbers, something does not match the pattern it is supposed to. In our story, a junior data analyst notices, at first, a section of the transmission that should be random noise, the kind of background static every deep space signal carries, is not actually random at all. It repeats, not in a simple way, not like a stuck bit or a hardware glitch, but in a structured, layered way, the kind of repetition that shows up in things built with intention rather than things that happen by accident. The team pulls in outside specialists. In our fictional account, someone eventually loops in an advanced AI system trained specifically to detect structure hidden inside noisy data, the same kind of tool researchers have genuinely used before to help clean up garbled deep space signals. The AI flags something the engineers call, in this story, a ghost command, a sequence embedded in the signal that nobody at Mission Control ever actually sent. It looks less like an error and more like the spacecraft responding to something in its environment entirely on its own. Let's imagine what the decoded transmission actually shows in this fictional scenario. It is not a message in any language a human could simply read. It is described in our story as a kind of map, not visual, but mathematical, a shift in magnetic readings layered against a pattern in plasma density, forming a gradient of particles that, according to everything scientists understand about that region of space, should not exist there at all. The implication, in this imagined version of events, is that Voyager 2 has drifted into some kind of boundary, something dynamic and shifting that nobody had previously mapped or expected to find in that part of the interstellar medium. In our fictional telling, the team notices something else buried in the cleaned up data, an oscillation pattern that repeats almost identically every single time it appears. Not random, not environmental background noise. A structured, repeating sequence almost like an echo, almost as if something out there is responding to the spacecraft's presence rather than simply existing independently of it. Publicly, in this story, the agency describes the finding, using careful, measured language, calling it an interesting anomaly. Privately, among the small group of scientists actually working the data, the tone in our narrative is far less composed, because a 46-year-old spacecraft with well-understood, thoroughly tested hardware should not suddenly begin behaving in a way nobody designed it to. This is where our fictional story leans into the genuine mystery at its heart. Is what Voyager 2 encountered in this imagined scenario a completely natural phenomenon? Something exceptionally rare that has simply never been documented before because no instrument has ever traveled far enough to observe it? Or is it something else? A structure, a boundary, or even an intelligence shaped by forces nobody yet understands? In our story, the scientists themselves do not know, and that uncertainty is exactly what makes the tale unsettling rather than simply strange. As the fictional narrative continues, the signal does not fade the way a glitch normally would. The plasma variations, also described in our story, grow stronger over the following weeks. The transmissions become harder to decode, not easier, even as the team's tools improve. Whatever Voyager 2 has encountered in this imagined tale, it is not a fleeting anomaly. It is described as intensifying, and that trajectory is exactly what keeps our fictional research team awake at night. Let's sit with the atmosphere of a scenario like this for a moment, because I think that is really the heart of why a story like this captures people's imagination in the first place. Voyager 2 is real. It genuinely is drifting more than 12 billion miles from Earth. Genuinely beyond any hope of repair or retrieval, genuinely capable only of continuing to transmit whatever it encounters until its power source finally runs out sometime in the coming years. That part of the premise is completely true, and it is exactly why a fictional scenario built around it feels so plausible. We really have sent a functioning instrument farther into the true unknown than any other human-made object, and it really is still listening, still measuring, still reporting back whatever it finds. In our story, as the anomaly continues developing, tensions inside the fictional research team grow. Some argue for full public disclosure immediately, worried that delaying transparency could later look like deliberate concealment. Others In our imagined narrative, argue for caution, wanting to rule out every possible natural explanation, from a genuinely undiscovered plasma phenomenon to a subtle hardware fault nobody has previously encountered in a spacecraft operating this far from the sun, before making any kind of announcement that could spark public panic over what might ultimately turn out to be nothing more than a fascinating quirk of physics. That tension in this fictional telling is really the emotional core of the whole scenario. Scientists working at the genuine edge of human knowledge almost never get a clean, simple answer right away. Real discovery usually looks messy, uncertain, and slow, built from careful incremental analysis rather than a single dramatic reveal. Our story imagines what it might feel like to sit inside that uncertainty in real time, watching data that might be pointing toward something entirely new about the universe, without yet having enough evidence to know for certain. So how does this fictional tale resolve? Well, I will leave that open, because that uncertainty is really the whole point of a story like this. Maybe, in this imagined ending, the anomaly eventually gets explained as a previously undocumented but entirely natural interaction between interstellar plasma and the heliopause's outer boundary, a genuinely fascinating discovery in its own right that simply had never been observed directly before because no instrument had ever traveled far enough to measure it. Or maybe, in a different imagined ending, the mystery deepens further and Voyager 2 becomes humanity's first real window into something we do not yet have the language to properly describe. Either way, I want to be completely clear one more time before we wrap up, because this matters. This entire narrative is a work of fiction. NASA has not announced any decoded, terrifying transmission from Voyager 2. There is no verified ghost command, no confirmed unexplained boundary, and no officially documented repeating signal resembling a response from something unknown. The real Voyager 2 mission is genuinely remarkable, entirely on its own merits, without needing any invented mystery attached to it, and I think that real story deserves just as much attention as any fictional one. If you enjoyed this speculative tale and want to see more fictional space mysteries built around real missions and real physics, go ahead and subscribe. And let me know in the comments what kind of imagined scenario you would want explored next. And if you know someone who loves science fiction blended with genuine space history, send this their way, because stories like this work best when everyone watching understands exactly where the real science ends and the imagination begins. Thank you all so much for watching. Stay curious, and I will see you in the next story.